Basically, just a TLDR on Nexas for those who haven't followed the entire saga. I mean, Nexas is a small VTuber agency, kind of like many others who has unfortunately shut down in the span of 1 year. This is sort of normal because this is when people, you know, within 1 year they realize, okay, it's not gonna work out. They had a very, how can I say this, original concept where basically they were used as a springboard to almost eject, I guess ejecting is the right word, multiple waves of talents and multiple talents at the same time. But the biggest thing that made a lot of people skeptic about this agency, about this new agency, is that the VTubers were primarily streaming on a relatively unknown vertical platform. Yeah, basically these VTubers were meant to stream on this app that's just newly launched, and it doesn't have a very wide population in the western side. That's kind of like Iriam. Iriam is like a VTuber only app that we're supposed to stream on Live, which is sort of a Iriam knockoff, except Iriam has been established in Japan for multiple years now. If you guys are on TikTok, you know, you're familiar with the format. It's sort of like a TikTok, but only with anime girls. It's an interesting concept, but it's not very popular. It's not very set up yet. When the agency started, there was a lot of controversy, mostly because it was right after, you know, Silent-Gate, and people were really iffy about agency models debuting tons of talents because it was similar to Nijisanji, or they drew similarities to that. Two, there was another controversy where people were afraid of uploading their model to Live because it required you to upload your model file into the app. And some people, you know, they found correlations between some of the Live staff CEO job openings and the Nexas CEO doing AI work in the past. So people were afraid that their models would be used for AI training. I believe Live or one of their sister company, I can't really remember, also debuted an AI model, kind of like Neurosama. Didn't really do that great. I think the project is now shut down, as far last time I checked. The CEO started replying to a lot of Twitter criticism, which wasn't a good look. Anyway, they debuted the first wave. They debuted a ton of talents in one go. And then it's almost like they accelerated, you know. Yeah, they debuted 27 talents in 3 days. And the first gen kind of went okay, you know, they kind of had time to establish themselves. They started streaming on other platforms on top of their Live. But then the other gens, it kind of like started accelerating. It's like they were debuting closer and closer to each other with a really wide amount of people. Now, Nexas is now shut down. The VTubers, or so I believed, you know, Nexas made an announcement saying they were gonna give back the VTubers' IPs to the VTuber. This is something Harry touched on in his letter. Now there's more. And now after the agency is defunct, he's decided to share a blog post and share some notes on why he thought the agency had failed. And this blog post, it was really disappointing to read. I didn't like the tone of it. I feel like a lot of the things that people have been trying to tell Harry, valid criticism, he's not taking it very well. And it was a very disappointing read. It feels like he's blaming everybody but himself. But you know, I'm not gonna sell a punch yet. We can read it. The first version of it was the Japanese version, which people, you know, translated with the browser translate tool. But now, Harry has released the official English translation because he believes a lot of his Japanese translated blog post was entirely misconstrued by people and drama vultures because of the miscommunication in language, etc., etc. Honestly, it's essential, the criticism staying the same, it's essentially the same points. And this is the official English translation of the blog post. Oi, you! Yeah, you! Hi! If you're not subscribed to my second channel, I don't know what you're doing with your life. So take a moment, press the like button, press the subscribe button, and hit that notification bell on. And thank you so much. I appreciate you. Now let's get back into the video. Since I'm not a native English speaker, I originally wrote my reflections in Japanese to ensure I could fully capture every detail. The original article was written for a Japanese audience, specifically my JP account followers, which are entrepreneurs, investors, and people involved in VTuber-related work. So I deliberately omitted certain background explanation, as I mentioned in the article. My main goal was to look back on my experience and hopefully offer a learning experience for anyone pursuing VTuber-related ventures in the future. Because much of it focuses on company management and business, including strategic thinking and hypotheses that may not have definitive answers, I understand that some parts may be difficult to agree with. Still, I've tried to be as explanatory as possible in this English version, hoping that my true intention come through. Right now I realize that it's far too late. But I've decided to post this official English translation because excessive negative interpretation and incorrect translations have spread so widely. It's heartbreaking that in just one day, people who have trusted me ended up feeling betrayed without me even realizing it. Yeah, that's kind of how I felt. I believe that if anyone who speaks native level Japanese were to examine many of the currently circulating tweets, they would notice the inaccuracies right away. Also, there's virtually, I haven't seen those tweets, but anyway, also there's virtually no backlash at all in Japan. This should indicate just how distorted the English interpretation had become. That could also be explained to a difference in culture. And secondly, the Japanese defamation laws are insane. You can't even criticize somebody. You're free to interpret this English version however you like. I'm not going to comment further on that, but I hope when you discuss it, please always refer to this official one instead of others people tweet, please. Even so, I want to clearly communicate my real intentions to all the fans, talent, colleagues, and business partners who have trusted me, even a little. I wanted people to know the vision, the passion, the hypothesis, the lesson learns, and what I've been thinking up until now. I never once lied. Yes, my limited English may have caused misunderstanding at times, but for more than a year I put my life on the line for this project, dwelling on a 24-hour day, 365 days a year. It ultimately failed because I lack the capabilities to make it work, but it's unbearably painful to be treated like a scam in the very VTuber community, and I love because of this misinterpretation. I only hope these words reach the people I truly want them to reach. So let's read this letter. Okay, I'm Harry, a CEO from a company for creators. We established a company in Singapore in October 2023. And now, as we finish Q1 in our second fiscal year, we're operated as a startup. This article is about how I launched an English-focused V-Mobile live streamer agency, and I will explain the definition later. And in just 1 year, I ended up shutting it down. As I write this note, on January 31st, 2025, the final day of the agency, I thought it would be a good milestone to look back on everything from founding the company up to the pivot in our business. The title makes it sound like a bold story, but it's not a tale of heroic feats at all. I made a ton of mistakes and have many regrets. I'm writing this from my perspective in the hope that it helps someone out there. Think of it like a lesson in failure as a management. Why an English-speaking V-Mobile live streamer agency? I mean, okay, first of all, I don't think the VTuber like mobile concept is that bad, but if you're going to invest in this, you're gonna have to give it like several years. I'm not talking just 1 year. It's going to take a lot. Like I know people that are starting business, okay? I was talking to them the other day. They're in Silicon Valley and stuff, or San Francisco, one of the two like tech places, I can't remember. And I was like, oh, cool. You know, they've been going on for 2 years. I'm like, nice. You've turned a profit yet? And they're like, nope. We're just sinking costs still in research and development. Like, they're still developing their product. They're not even gonna start selling till like 5 years down the line. But VTuber agencies, if it's not working within 1 year or two, that's it. They shut it down. First of all, let me talk about why I decided to start an English-focused V-Mobile live streaming agency. This is an additional paragraph to the original Japanese version to make sure of the definitions. So he's added that exclusively in this version. But before moving on, please allow me to explain the definition of the term V-Mobile live streaming agency. Yes, we get it. As if it is where most of the misinterpretation between Asian and Western audience. I like you all to understand the difference between VTuber agency correctly. In Japan, there's a distinction between VTuber agencies managing online entertainers who primarily stream on platforms like YouTube or Twitch using anime-style avatars, and this, which is a mobile live streaming agency. What it means is that it's a streamer agency. The mobile live streamer agency is an agency focused on managing virtual streamers who primarily live stream on smartphone-based streaming apps like Reality, Iriam, TikTok Live, etc. These streaming apps are popular in Asia and increasingly worldwide for casual smartphone-driven live content. Unlike a typical VTuber agency that might have fewer talents streaming on big global platforms like YouTube, Twitch mobile live streamer agency often has very large numbers of talents, sometimes 100, 500, or even over one under one agency. They're just spamming people. I mean, I guess you gotta debut a lot of people if these are the only VTubers streaming on the app. You gotta populate the app. But if you want to bring people to the app, you kind of need to do what Irium do, and you need to give them a lot of incentives. You know, every person that signs up gets, I don't know, 500 flowers to spend for free, you know, things like that. Why it's different from a VTuber agency? Platform focus. The focus on apps meant for mobile devices, often designed for real-time audience interaction, gifting, tipping, and casual chats. The talent numbers, because it's a volume-driven business, many smaller streamers versus a few top earners, and these agencies tend to recruit or manage far more talent. That's literally every agency. Like if you look at the model of of model agencies, you're gonna have, you know, hundreds of girls on these agencies board, and some of them, you know, make a lot of money. They're the top earners, and a lot of them are just there for when one client has like that one specific request. Oh, I want a red-haired for that photo shoot. The same thing applies to any talent agency. Look at an actor agency or actress agency, it's going to be the same. They have a wide range. They have some people that get hired a lot more than others. However, you know, with large volume, there's less jobs to go around for everybody, and then it's up to the talents. If they're not satisfied with the service they're given or with the representation they're given, then they're just gonna switch agency. It's a competitive market. What I used to do and what I want to do. I'm half Japanese, half Taiwanese, grew up loving anime, manga, and all sorts of content, and spent my college days more on studying abroad and interning overseas than actually going to class. I joined a company running one of the live streaming app called 17 Live. As a new graduate in October 2019, about half a year before COVID started. For about 3 years, I worked as an assistant to the CEO of the global CEO's office under Mr. Ono at the time. While there, I experienced the live streaming industry's explosive growth during the pandemic. Witnessed how 17 Live tried to expand into the US and the Middle East and failed. And watch as everything gradually got taken over by TikTok Live. Yeah, TikTok is a monolith and is going to be very hard to compete against TikTok. It feels like, you know, you're trying to compete against TikTok. They have VTubers on that platform, and they have all the other influencers too, and other content creators. Meanwhile, 17 Live, I checked out the app, by the way. It was dead. Like, I looked at the top streamers on 17 Lives, and they had like sub 10 viewers. It was sad. You know, when people join a stream, there's a word for it, but you know, there's a reason why people click on the popular streams when they go to Twitch or when they go to YouTube. They see like high numbers of viewers watching. They're like, oh, this must be interesting. But it's also about, you know, entering that community, interacting with that audience. It was a jam-packed 3 days, after which I went independent for about a year. I worked in the entertainment and Web3 spaces as a freelance business developer and marketer with a strong passion for creator economy industry, and then I founded my company. Having an interest in leveraging my strength, global business, entertainment, the creator economy, I began exploring possible ventures. That's when I set my sight on the overseas VTuber market. I thought I want to take on the challenge in overseas markets with a culture that originated in Japan. Right before founding the company, I traveled around anime conventions in Southeast Asia and North America, arranged meetings with local VTuber agency CEOs, and gathered insight into those markets, forming a few hypotheses along the way. I don't know why he's giving us his autobiography. It's like his curriculum, I guess. It just feels like he's all about Asia, the Asian mentality, and that's all he's experienced aside from these meetings with CEOs, you know, in North American conventions. But then he's like, yeah, I'll tackle the Western industry. And then all of his conclusions are like completely wrong. Initial hypothesis and goals. 1. A time lag of several years between Japan and the global market. Basically, he thinks that the trends hit first in Japan and then go to America. I'd say for most trends, it's a back and forth. Some trends will trend in Japan first and then go to America. but sometimes it's going to be the other way around. Starts in America, goes to Japan. And some trends will never transfer because it's two different cultures. It's two different mentality, completely. Like, I know people that have traveled all over the world, but when they go to Japan, they're like, this is a culture shock. Be ready. If you go there, you're gonna feel a culture shock. Now, these friends don't know that I always dream about maid cafes. I was born there. His culture shock was that it was more expensive. It's a much more demanding market too. In terms of employee satisfaction, we have way higher standards when it comes to employees, even freelancers, the way we treat them. Here, people expect something back from the company they work for, especially in the last few years. There's been a great shift. They're not gonna give their life for a company. They don't put up with BS anymore. And I think that's fine. Now, Harry, he writes, VTubers are one of the rare new forms of culture to originate in Japan. A major trend started in Japan and spread worldwide thanks to companies like Cover and Any Color. But each market seems to be a slightly different phase. I got the impression that today's Japan might be where overseas market will be in a few years. Maybe 3 or 4 years later. A coming wave of the long tail. When I talked to people in the overseas community, every single one of them said that YouTube and Twitch are oversaturated, too many competitors, but they had no viable alternative. In Japan, platforms like Reality or Irium serve as a next step, but overseas, that hasn't fully developed. Reality is growing explosively in North America, but I heard from creators that making an avatar in the US is extremely expensive. Local illustrators can cost more than double compared to Japan. Is this because of the USD fee? I just don't see... Well, first of all, he could hire people abroad. I don't see why he could hire somebody from Singapore. He can hire somebody from Japan. I mean, the illustrators that the VTuber companies from Japan are hiring are the same price as the American illustrators here. I know because I've submitted quotes to all of them when I was shopping for my model. But the American dollar is much stronger than the yen right now. Maybe that's why he thinks it's much more expensive for like lower tier artists that are still good. I'm sure you can find some probably cheaper, like you can probably find a cheaper base rate for models in Japan. Anyway, Harry says that that's just not feasible for many. In Japan, you can find cheaper options on sites like Coconala or Booth, but that's not really accessible there. No, it is. You can buy stuff in Booth. I felt that as more people tried to become VTubers, the rise of long-tail content creators would inevitably arrive. And long-tail is a business term referring to the idea that in the digital age, niche content or smaller scale creators collectively attract a significant audience. Is he talking about like micro-influencers? Rather than having only a few mainstream hits or top stars, an increasing number of smaller creators can survive and thrive because of the internet lowers distribution and marketing cost. I think talking to, I don't know about this. I know that for a sec, for the last time I spoke to like marketing agencies and, people that work in the creator economy and influencers, there was a point where brands were willing to collaborate with every micro influencer or content creator out there because they were like, oh, they have like, a more intimate relationship with their audience and all of that. But now it's kind of shifting back to they're only willing to work with really large content creators. So I do think there's a shift back in the market here that he may not have noticed. But he's right that we are entering, the long tail section of the market where basically all the big agencies are already established. And now you're probably going to have to innovate if you want to stand out from the bunch. Because the business model of a V-Mobile live streaming agency is heavily dependent on platforms, it's relatively easy to generate revenue without burning too much capital as long as the platform can pay us well, compared to straight into competitive platforms like YouTube and Twitch, where there are no platform bonus such things. I don't know what kind of bonus you would get, but if you get like 50%, even if you get 50% of the revenue made on these platforms, compared to 10% or 20% made on YouTube or Twitch, 50% of $10 is not gonna be much. And I mean, they made a tweet. I've seen this going around that they made a tweet celebrating how some of their models, some of their talents made like $2,000 in, what was it? In like a month or a week. But apparently it was them gifting these amounts to the talent so they could like spend them in the app or something. So it was sort of a misleading tweet. It was only their top talent. 100 Unraveling coins was like 87 cents. I'd have to find the tweet again. Anyway, my idea was to run a V mobile live streamer agency to generate sustainable cash flow, strengthen our network, and leverage this foundation to explore new opportunities within the industry. Concerns about the value of an agency. However, I always had major concerns about the agency model. The evolving creator economy is reducing the value of agencies. Thanks to more online tools, creators can now independently gather information, find work, and produce content. I feel that it's getting harder to define an agency's exclusive value, things only an agency can do. I'll tell you right now, an agency depends solely on their networks. That's why you have an agency for. You don't join an agency if they don't know anybody in the business. At least I wouldn't. I wouldn't see the point. An agency is to make you get your foot in the door. You're a nobody. They're gonna introduce you to people. They're gonna handshake. They know everybody. But if the only other people you know have their own agencies, that's your network is not completing what you want to do. They're your competitors. They're not going to be somebody that's going to work with you actively. On the other hand, you can start from the ground up with zero network. You're going to build your agency. You're going to get the talents. You're going to bank on them being good. And you're just going to stick it out till you both make it together. And you're going to learn the tricks of the road as you go. You're going to mess up. You're going to trip. You're going to fall. But you're going to get back up. But they decided to go another route because he didn't like the agency model. He's going to go on to describe that he settles for an academy type model. Basically, and he's going to list the reasons why here. He's going to say that a liver's agency model often depends on volume. Rather than having 10 talents who each earn 10 million yen, it's about having 100 talents who each earn 1 million yen. That is one way to go about it. Like, this is the Nijisanji structure, okay? But there's also, the Hololive structure who has like a third of this talent number and they're doing as well. And today, Cover Corp just, they've got a 52-year high. When I was at 17 Live, I saw so many called management agencies that basically took fees without really supporting the talents. I strongly did not want to become that kind of exploitative agency, yet genuinely comprehensive support for each talent is very difficult to scale, because each talent doesn't earn a huge amount individually in this model. The management cost allocated per talent inevitably has to be lower than agency exclusively select only a few talents. Yeah, but usually like your biggest earners kind of pay for the rest. Cultural differences in North America. All right, we're getting to the good parts. In North America, there really aren't streamer agencies in this model. There are barely any agencies that manage over 10 VTubers. How do you build credibility when you want to manage a large number of talents in a market where the word agency can have a very different nuance than the one in Japan? In Japan, a company often has a stronger position than creators. In North America, it's the complete opposite. The talent hires the company to do what they can't do alone. This sentence is, in Japan, the company often has a stronger position than creators. All I'm thinking is, Rikutazumi! Unless you deliver a clear benefit they can't get independently, it's not really an agency. Yeah, I mean, they need to eat. The cost of living here is expensive. I've been thinking about this business model since before founding the company. The thing is, in Japan, yeah, they have a stronger position because the companies have influence. They have a lot of influence. So if you sign a deal with them, the talents know they're set. It's the same. It's basically the same as North America. If the company has a lot of influence, they're gonna have more negotiating power. But since it's a bunch of startups that are unknown, yeah, they better provide some value for the talent, or why would they accept somebody to skim off like 20% or 50% of their revenue for no reason? They'll be like, I might as well just stream alone, independently. So, how can we export the Japanese streamer agency model to North America? The answer for myself is the academia concept. Aim for an agency like My Hero Academia. Yo, the fact that there's a My Hero Academia like anime shot in his pitch deck is funny. I didn't even see that part the first time I read it. Start here, let's aim to become a star. Nexas is a virtual talent academy. Curriculum to learn from the basic to advanced. Meet friends and rivals to compete and train each other. Total support for full-time professionals, only limited persons are entitled to join. We envision an academy where people want to become VTubers, gather to learn, compete, and push one another to grow. We provided regular lectures. That is true though, and I'll say this, I like that they invested in lectures and getting some people that are known in the field to go like do lectures at Nexas. I've done one of them. They invited me to do an internal lecture and I went there. It was about, how to stay off drama. It was more about like how to present yourself on social media and so on. The staff was really nice. Everybody was super welcoming. The talents was really, really nice. Ironically though, a lot of the things that I talked about would have applied to Harry when, he was replying to everybody on Twitter when Nexus first launched. Unfortunately, Harry only arrived at the very tail end of my lecture, and he probably would have been the one to most benefit from it. But aside from that, I know a few other people who have done lecture for them. They've had people, come teach them about shorts. They've had people come teach them. I think there was a sound engineer. One of the editors that I work with, they came to show them how to edit videos, how to create thumbnails. So that is really cool. Like if you're a brand new VTuber, this is good knowledge to have. And well, they got really good models. I like the models that they had for them. And I know some of them had some input into what the model would look like. So these were good perks for Nexus, sorry. I just wish these blog posts wouldn't have happened. Our idea was to serve as an academia for prospective VTubers rather than starting out on YouTube or Twitch. We'd have them begin their careers on a new mobile streaming platform. The best of them, those who achieve results, would move up to a full-service talent agency that offered more management resource and multi-platform options, aiming to become top stars. That was the ideal blueprint we had in mind. Wait, really? I didn't know that. So Nexus was the springboard and then there's a new agency later down the road. I wasn't aware of their new agency future plan. Okay, that's interesting. That's new to me. First few months were nothing but trial and error. They spent talking with talents. It was intended to be like certain talents would go to this new agency he was gonna make, or he would help us join other agencies or become indie. Oh, really? But you get to walk away with your IP? That's interesting. Okay. I wonder what was the long-term plan actually, like how do you concretize this? It was like a 2-year plan. Okay. First, we hired American staff member. We asked him to contact as many independent VTubers and streamers as possible. Anyone who showed interest was then scheduled for an online meeting with me. Since I was based in Asia and our talents were in North America, it was normal to have meetings in the middle of the night. I'm not a native English speaker, but when you talk to new people daily, you get pretty comfortable quickly getting to know each other. Yes, and yeah, middle of the night if you're in Asia. I mean, welcome to Nuzagi's life. Positive This is an NDA, by the way, this is how it was marketed. Yeah. I mean, this is supposed to be public knowledge because it was in his pitch deck or whatever. I missed out on that part. Positive reaction from talent, building a community with a one-team feeling. Through repeated pitches, introducing myself, our concept, and asking them to join us as talents, many people responded positively to the idea of Nexus. They seemed to like our concept, the idea of connecting with other like-minded talents, and being part of a community. I was recruiting them the same way a startup recruits its early team members. Join this brand new ship. We successfully interviewed and welcomed new talents into the community, and they naturally gathered in our Discord voice chats to play games all night and hang out. Early on, there was a strong, positive atmosphere. I really felt excited of something new beginning. That's good, that's great. Marketing strategy. How do we dispel concerns about an unknown agency? With our first wave of about 30 talents ready to debut, we moved on to the launch marketing. 30 talent is, wow, it's a lot. As a new player without major backing or proven track record, earning trust was key for us to gain fans in the English-speaking market. That's where we turned to collaboration with high-profile established talents. I assume that's why they invited those VTubers to do guest lectures. It was kind of like to have that sense of credibility. Like, oh, these Filian and Punkalopi are doing special lectures, so, we're legit guys. But, Filian and Punkalopi don't know much more about Nexus than the other person. It's just, it's just a sponsor like any other. It doesn't really make the agency better or not. You know, if you invite them, it should be more to gain some of their knowledge and some of their tricks rather than give credibility to your agency. They talked about how they grew their subscriber base from thousands to hundreds of thousands, how they created their content, their daily routines and mindset. This is great. I mean, I'm sure they had a lot of insightful things to say. They packed an incredible amount of knowledge into those sessions. And as a moderator, I was also a huge fan, so I couldn't help asking a bunch of questions. I truly can't thank them enough. A huge controversy and its aftermath. Oh, okay, this is where it starts getting good. I said that earlier, but it's actually here. Just when we were all set and ready, right before the group debut stream went live, it happened. A storm of negative comments. Yo, I remember when this launched. I remember when looking at this is, I mean, for us who are used to having gens with like max people debut, seeing 30 VTuber debut in a single day, of course it's a shock. I mean, how did you expect people to react? The people memed about this being VTuber Royale because it kind of is. And it came out at a terrible time. Like, it was 2 months after Selengate. And it would be, the debuts were happening on any live app, an app no one had heard of. The talents didn't have their Twitch channel where they restreamed either. We posted about the Academia concept, our plan to debut 27 talents over 3 days. In the schedule we'd been preparing for months, but the response was a flood of harsh comments. This definitely won't work. Yeah, who cares though if people say this definitely won't work, if you believe your concept will work. This defies all known convention. I mean, it did. It did. Why would they do something so reckless? Who's this idiot founder? Yeah, people were skeptical about your business concept. We saw a barrage of negative from their perspective. They knew nothing about us. Welcome to the internet. We were launching a large number of unknown talents on an unfamiliar platform. It's understandable that they were confused. Well, there you go. You came to that conclusion yourself. Still, some comments took aim at the talents themselves, calling them stupid for joining this new agency. They really hurt the talent's motivation. Honestly, seeing something you've worked on for over half a year get torn apart right before your eyes was emotionally overwhelming. I got a bit emotional, responded to some of the comments in a confrontational tone, and ended up pouring more fuel on the fire, something I deeply regret. Yeah. Have you heard of drama tubers? This is really a section that is really surprising to me because it really shouldn't have had its space here. Like everywhere else, the world loves gossip and scandals. There are always creators hungry for drama. We became fresh praise for those drama tubers. Okay, let's talk about the word drama tubers for a sec. Drama tuber. It's a word meant to really reduce, and it's a word used by antis, most of all. Now sometimes used by fans who watch this kind of content. But originally, it's a word meant to, you know, it's derogatory at its core. Because it implies that everything you talk about is chalked up to being drama. And that's exactly what Admiral Baru's...
You literally told us to wait and see at the time.
True, I did. It's almost always used as a slur. Yes, it is. Yes, and we were very charitable with them. It's exactly what Admiral Baru said when I made this video about him. He said, you know, way to dig up old drama. And it's like, well, for you guys, it might be drama, but there's actually people genuinely hurt by your actions. Is it still drama? I mean, some of these topics are nothing burger, sure. Some of them are drama and it's just popcorn for entertainment. But some of the things we cover is important and it brings companies accountable to the point where many VTubers are now telling us, thank you for talking about this in private. Hey, I can't say anything about this because I'm under NDA, but thank you for bringing this to light. Thank you for what you did here. You know, they even come and give us information about things that they want us to talk about because they can't talk for themselves. So I am happy that we can give these people a voice. Anyway, he's right. These quote-unquote drama tubers, that's just a genre of YouTuber that's existed forever. It's all over YouTube. The word drama tuber is more prevalent in the VTuber industry because being a VTuber and being in the VTuber community, it's not a traditional way to do content. people are more used to, you know, they have more CISO expectations, more like idol-like, pure, or just regular gaming streamer with a VTuber avatar. So yeah. Anyway, right before our talent's debut, they dug up my LinkedIn, X, and past company info. You mean they looked into publicly available information and they misinterpreted everything and bashed us on their channels? Dude, like, I hate the hyper focus on drama tubers because they're easy targets to criticize when there are bigger channels that have spoken up, that have spoken against their company, and they're never mentioned. They are never mentioned. Arguably, these indie VTubers that have spoken up against Nexas has so much more reach, engagement, and views than our channels combined together would ever get. So, I don't get it. We literally had a very large VShojo talents tell people not to upload their models into the app. And I didn't see any talents criticism. They criticized the business concept, and they criticized the fact that he had ties to some AI things or whatever, like some fishy stuff. And there was fishy stuff. Like, I didn't even talk about the fishy stuff on my channel, and I could have. I should have, actually. Know that we found a Wikipedia page that had been edited, and you can see the edits history. There was a lot of back and forth between somebody that was trying to edit the page and somebody else that was like, dude, you need to put a reference for that. You need to put a source on that. And then towards the end, they like locked the page and there was a warning saying like, we think this is being tampered with. So it was fishy. And again, if you have like nothing to hide, if you're a cool-headed person, you probably have an explanation for all of this. And it shouldn't be such a big deal to go online and freak out and throw fuel on the fire. Yes, people were concerned for good reasons, and those reasons turned out to be right. Exactly. Anyways, so he couldn't think straight. He canceled all of his meeting and spent 5 hours at the nearby sauna meditating, trying to reset my mindset. I pulled myself together because the debut streams were starting the next day. I apologized to the talents, telling everyone, including myself, we just have to do our best and not overthink it. Mary's public interrogation stream. I think the original Japanese version had been like translated to Mary's public execution stream, and it was so funny. While the flames were still raging, I got a DM from Mary Weather, one of the top English VTubers with 400k followers on X and 500k on YouTube and 300k on Twitch. And okay, just one last thing on the last point on the controversy. Yes, people talked about it, but you know what? A lot of the talents like Lulu Lasso, they really impressed me because with every controversy, there's a silver lining, and if you find it, you can find a way to rise up through it. You know, off the top of my head, I'm thinking about Adora's, the recent hack thing that happened. She gained a lot of attention for it. Maybe not in the way she wished it would have happened, but, you know, you might as well make the best of it. This is the cards you got dealt. And Lulu, she had a really positive mindset she had a really positive mindset through all of this. You know, she started making memes, she started tweeting a lot, and she garnered a lot of attention. She did really good when she debuted. She did really good with that agency. It's about how you leverage bad situation and you turn them into the best that you can. Mary's, okay, we read this. So he himself runs a webtoon company and a VTuber agency, so he was genuinely interested in our concept. On my side, I thought if we don't clear up the misunderstanding here, we won't get another chance, so I decided to appear on Mary's show. It was a gamble. I'm not a native English speaker and I might not be able to explain what I truly intended clearly. They could easily twist my words, turning it into prime content for drama tubers. Dude, do we make every agency like shake in their boots out of fear? This is what it sounds like. I'm not that mean, aren't I? It would be a live broadcast with no pre-submitted questions. Basically a possible public execution. So he did use the word public execution. so the translation wasn't that wrong. However, people who knew Mary told me that he's not someone who maliciously attacks guests. He takes a fair stance, aligning with fans but also expressing his own view. So I resolved to be totally honest, straightforward, and passionate, focusing on correcting misconceptions. As you should do. I spent 1.5 hours answering tough questions from Mary and his fans, sweating through my English. Listen, a lot of people criticize Mary for softballing the questions. He can't be too soft on his questions to you, or he's gonna get criticized. Like, people are watching the interview because they want answers to these specific questions. If he just like curved around all of them and dodged all of them, then it would have been a disappointing interview. I think Mary handled it really well. And Mary's like a very, he's a gentleman. So I remember watching a long part of the interview. And I don't remember it being very pushy or brutal or anything like that. Before going live, I was so nervous I couldn't eat, but thankfully I didn't say anything that caused more misunderstanding, I guess. I did think that the interview really calmed people down on the, doom posting about Nexas, and I do think it had a positive effect overall. As someone who was in that stream, Mary was incredibly nice to him. Yes, I think he was incredibly nice to him. Like, it's been a while, so but I just don't picture Mary being not nice to anybody, TBH. Outcome, Mary and I became good friends. After that, Mary openly supported Nexas. The negative comments subsided because if Mary endorses them, maybe it's okay. He even volunteered to hold special lectures for us. We ended up going out to eat together, and he really saved us. I cannot thank you enough. Great. Early success. Thanks to that controversy, ironically, our name got more attention. Debut performance on launch day was great. The talents had prepared a ton, amazingly, and viewers were excited. Honestly, he picked a really good cast of talents. At the time, our partner platform was pumping in big promotional budgets, so the more the talents streamed, the more they earned. Some of the streamers even earned more than that's it! Some of the streamers even earned more than $2,000 in their first month of streaming, which is extremely difficult if you start your streaming career on YouTube or Twitch. See, I'm very skeptical about these numbers, and I remember seeing somebody saying that I think it was given to them or something. I can't remember exactly, but it's like a skewed information. They just chalk it up at that. The $2,000 as your first month of streaming, yo, I would take that. I would take that in a heartbeat, and I know a lot of people who would. The stupid thing about Harry is that he basically confirmed suspicions that when Captain boasted about any live streamers making 2K, it was just incentives paid by any live itself. I knew it. Yeah, it was just paid by any live. Even after all the drama, we still had 400 people who resonated with our concept and wanted to join. This confirmed our initial hunch about a growing long-tail market, new platforms, and an appetite for a new kind of agency. I mean, hell yeah. People, you know what? Like, people are joining freaking Irium to stream there because they're like, well, why not? It's like, I'm in a saturated market. I'm not getting, much views on Twitch or YouTube. So I might as well try something new. I'm streaming anyway, and I want to give this a shot. And you get a beautiful model to go with it. Why the agency couldn't continue. Although our debut fest was a major success, things started unraveling quickly about 3 months later. The lure of other platforms. Again, in Japan, Vtuber and Vmobile streamer are distinct concepts, so you don't have to explain the difference. Vtubers are mostly interpreted as virtual influencers that stream on YouTube, but the Vmobile, they stream on phones. I had an indie tell me that AnyLive still owes her a payout, so I have no idea what's going on that site. Isn't AnyLive, like, they pulled it off the app and they're restructuring? That's also sus, because usually when you update an app, you don't have to pull it off the store. You leave it there and you update it. But they're completely removing it and then they're putting it back. So why not stream on YouTube? When talents interacted with other VTubers on Twitter, they'd be invited to collaborate on YouTube. But early on, we had exclusive conditions with our partner platform that restricted multi-platform streaming. I assume, yeah, that's what I assumed too, that they had a partnership with AnyLive. And because AnyLive probably has a lot more funding and investments, they probably gave them incentives or money to have the VTubers exclusively stream on that platform. That's just an assumption. I don't know if it's true. Disclaimer. But that was my theory. Because that was the strategy where talent and company could benefit from, such as monetary bonus from partner platform. So talents had to say, sorry, the agency will let me stream on other platforms. People's reaction was, that sucks, and the negativity spread among creators. Yeah, I mean, yeah, because people are like, why wouldn't you restream? It does suck because it doesn't feel like you can grow your brand as much. When we loosened the restrictions in response, talents understandably migrated to the more fun options. I mean, more fun. You have fun when you grow. When you're a content creator, it's nice to see the numbers go up. It's just like you're starting a new hobby. The new hobby sucks when you first start because you suck at it. It's like me, okay? I'm gonna take the League of Legends metaphor. Everybody hates League of Legends when they're losing. It's the best game ever when you're winning. I like to do things I'm good at. When I do things I'm bad at, I feel depressed. The voices start winning. So obviously the talent would migrate to the option where they feel like they can progress more and get more growth, where there's an audience that's gonna talk back to you. What do you do as a content creator if you're talking to no one? It's so boring. As a result, our main platform strategy started to crumble. Please don't get me wrong, this is not to blame the talents at all. It's a failure of management to build the balanced guidelines and operation. The challenge of promoting commitment. Contracts don't force streaming hours. When you run a global agency, there are many legal and cultural constraints. If you try to impose streaming hours as a requirement, you start to encroach on employee status under US or local labor laws, which place a huge burden on the company. So our contract had to be relaxed in that sense, making it impossible to enforce something as crucial as streaming hours. Really? I feel like there's a lot of contracts that have streaming hours. I didn't know their contract didn't have any streaming hours. On any live, we had to fight over the same 10 people. Overlap hell was awful. I don't know why they made us prioritize PST prime time when they weren't enough users yet. Yeah, I could see how insanely competitive it must have been. You're all kind of fighting for the same limited resources. That's exactly it. I guess the best way to go about it, but that's really hard to enforce in an agency, but that would have been the best way, is that's how, okay, and I'm gonna make another League reference. In TFT, there's a bunch of streamers that got extremely popular as the game got popular, and their strategy was really OP. It's one would stream, the other person would start streaming after the first person ended the stream, and then they would raid each other, and they would chain. They would pass along the viewers through all of them for 24 hours, and then every day would repeat. So that's what you guys should have done. One VTuber goes live, when they end stream, they raid the next VTuber, and then the next VTuber raid the next VTuber, so you just you share the audience, and then you all grow. But it's hard, really hard to coordinate with the time zones. That's ideal. AnyLive was a bare-bone app. They started having more talent streaming there than actual viewers. Overlap hell is crazy and actually became a meme. We begged for so many basic features. Yes, it was also in beta and there was a lot of things things missing. Was there an ability to moderate your chat? Looking back, I think we could have found ways around this, like not mandating streaming hours explicitly, but using indirect methods. If you don't meet the streaming minimum for no explicit reason, we part ways to get the business going. Okay. Good evening, Lucide. Yes, they started advertising to TikTok and Instagram before even adding a block button. Reporting a user required filling out a Google form. Jeez. I don't get this indirect method. If you don't meet the streaming minimum for no explicit reason, we part ways. Difference in attitude towards mental health. What? This paragraph can't be good. You don't want to... Reasons for failing. Difference in attitude towards mental health from the west and the east, I bet. This is... You don't want to see that paragraph in this blog post. Let me tell you, this can only mean not good. There's a big cultural difference between Japan and the West regarding mental health. Yeah, Japan doesn't think it exists. Let me tell you something. If you got an injury, if you're on a football team and you're playing sport and you get an injury and your leg gets hurt, no one's gonna blame you for sitting on the bench for a couple games, right? I think most people would advise you to stay on the bench for those games. So why do people do not treat mental injuries the same as real injuries? Because that's what they are, and that's how they should be treated. It's difficult to convey this in writing without misunderstanding, but from a management standpoint, the typical Japanese approach of pushing and encouraging talent to work through tough times can be very problematic in Western context. Yes, it can be. Japanese or even Asian management culture emphasizes persistence and endurance, while Western approaches often prioritize individual mental well-being. Every new creator knows that in the early days you don't get many viewers. It's not always fun, but pushing them just a bit harder so that they can break through was extremely difficult from a communication standpoint. Some talents did keep streaming consistently without any push, but for the level of success we needed, it was tough to get a high enough percentage of them to do so. For those who don't know, the streaming hours and consistency are the two biggest keys factor to drive revenue and bonus in the mobile streaming apps. I guess Nexas talents can sense it, as all the bonus structure were designed purely based on these two metrics on the partner platform. Yes, he's right that consistency and what was it? Streaming hours and consistencies are key factors to succeeding as a content creator. It's certainly helpful, but I feel like he's all for nothing there. It's like you either, you know, force them to keep on streaming, which is what he considers his Japanese mental health mentality, or you adopt the, you know, motherly approach. Your tummy hurts today? Well, why don't you stay at home, Dan? Oh, you don't feel like going to school today? Well, why don't you stay at home? Listen, American companies don't do that either, okay? You get a few days off, but the rest of the time it's coming off your pocket. Like, okay, yes, like the big companies like Google and shit, maybe you get paid like therapy or something, but as a freelancer, I certainly don't. And that's just the big companies because they need to attract like top talents and stuff. And they need to stay competitive. And they need to put stuff in their investors report. Rima doesn't even let her mod out of the basement. True. I love how he says all this as if burnout is not a major thing to avoid if you want to succeed. True. It's like, I mean, look, it's different when you're an employee that no one's gonna have to talk to because you're working in a 9-to-5 like cubicle job. If you're a content creator, I think most companies or most managers would have to like prioritize your mental health, because if you're not having fun, it's going to be felt through the chat, and the chat is not gonna have fun either. You can't really lie your way when you're a content creator and when you're streaming, especially when you're streaming like really long hours. If you're giving like a lecture, you're not really talking about your personal life, maybe, but it kind of goes. The thing with streaming is that it really blurs the barriers between doing something fun and working, because they often go hand in hand. So really, you can't really separate them. Rising staff costs. Around the same time Any Colors, Nijisanji got embroiled in a massive controversy. In short, it was a clash of Japanese management styles and Western talents. Top talents started leaving, and Asia-based staff tried to manage North American talents, and the gap between the company and creators grew bigger and bigger. Eventually, the departing talent ignored NDA restrictions and leaked internal details, forcing CEO Tazumi to... Okay, wait, I thought he was talking about Nexus. He's talking about Nijisanji. Okay, okay, my bad. I thought he was talking about Nexus for a bit. No, he's talking about Nijisanji, forcing CEO Tazumi to post an apology. The video of him, like, bowing down a million times. Lawyer streaming public review of Nijisanji's league contract. A nightmare for any kind of business owner. And am I supposed to feel bad for the business owner here? I feel like, okay, I've seen really severe contracts, and I've seen like contracts that were fair, and it's only going to be a nightmare if you got the first kind of contract. The contract that's extremely severe. The kind of contract that's like, you show to your lawyer and you're like, well, it's legal, but can you negotiate it? Like, that's gonna look bad, of course. But this is what This is what happens when you play those games. Sure, it wasn't meant to be leaked, but then it was, and there was a public outcry because people like when their talents are being well treated. They like when the people they look up to, the people they support, the people they fucking listen to while they're eating or while they're trying to take a nap as background noise, they want to know that these people are treated fairly. Yeah, it's like, it's a nightmare for any kind of business owner that's trying to exploit their employee. Damn it! Talent saw all this happening, and to avoid a similar fate, we felt pressure to hire staff living in the same time zones as our talents, which of course meant higher labor cost. I mean, we don't really know that it was actually the clash of Japanese management style and Western talents that created the problem in Any Color. It could very well be that it was English. I'm pretty sure they have English, like same time zone staff. I just think they have to report to people in Japan. And yeah, higher labor cost. Yes, because people...
Maipuroshi Riku-sama.
Yeah, Furushi Riku-sama. Yes, here we do have this thing called minimum wage. So yeah, it's going to take higher labor cost. It was so hard to have to wait for staff in an extremely awkward time zone, especially since he wanted to focus on the Western audience on a Western schedule. It just makes sense to have staff that understand the Western audiences if that's the type of agency he wants to run. So far, he's done his research on an Asian market. He wants to operate with a mentality of Asian market. Then why open an agency that's directed to English market? I don't get it. You could have hired people from Asia, but just don't have an agency that's catered to the Western market then.
No, Scarlett talks about how she streams at the same time management gets up in Japan and she has to talk to them for anything.
So they are Japanese. Oh, that's good to know, Charlie. Thank you. And that's really good to know. Wait, but I'm pretty sure they have some English managers too, because I've met professionals in the industry that have talked to Nijisanji management at like Western cons and stuff. So there must be some of them that are in this time zone, but it's probably mixed. The partner platform's rapid decline, end of the money splash period. At first, the platform was showering creators with bonus campaigns, which let our top talent earn a lot, but as soon as that ended, they suddenly weren't making nearly as much. Yeah, this sucks. This was similar to what happened when Pococha and 17 Live withdrew from the US. The local tipping culture in North America is different and weaker. Wait, do people tip less in North America? I thought people tip more. Also, people care about what percentage of their tip actually goes to the streamer. Bro, what is this? Of course they care. What do you... Man, they really shouldn't care about what percentage of their tip goes to the streamer. It was hard to justify the same high-level tipping approach used in Asia. Gradually, we realized that talents couldn't earn as much as we had hoped. AI controversies, boycott. The Vtuber community in particular was extremely critical of AI. Many believed AI art steals illustrators' jobs, so anyone using AI art was an enemy. Our partner platform was actively developing AI-based features for streamers and to expand the creator base, which set off a huge backlash. Talents that wanted to be labeled as the people who support AI left the platform. They didn't want to get caught in the crossfire and simply declared, "I'm not streaming here anymore." Sure, streaming on YouTube and Twitch didn't necessarily mean they'd make more money immediately at all. In terms of time efficiency, streaming on partner platform is still more profitable for both the talent and the company. However, at that point, it felt like things gradually spiraled out of control. I think they should have just streamed on both to maximize growth and audience. First year, don't expect to make too much money. I think most people that start off like content creation, they're not expecting to make money, okay? For like the first 5 years probably. They'd be happy if they did, but they can't depend on that for their main income. It's about, again, growth, building an audience, and then later on monetizing that. But it takes time. You can't monetize right away. This is how original strategy and business model fell apart. I guess because their business model was intricately tied with Anylive. What's the most insulting to me is that he could have left off gracefully with the good grace of "It's awesome that the talents got to keep their IP, but dropped the postmortem blaming community." That's exactly it. We left on a good note. You know, the talents got to keep their IPs. He even DM'd me a really nice message. You know, thank you for what you've done for the talents and for supporting them. And I was like, thanks, dude. And, you know, good luck in your future projects. And then he did this. Yeah, he did. And then he did this. And then blamed drama tubers and stuff. I was like, well, that's not what it sounded like in your last DM to me. Where was those feelings? From what I gathered is that Harry was actually surrounded by really wonderful talents and a wonderful staff that really wanted his company to succeed, actually. I think there's a lot of mishaps that could have happened where he was held back by the staff. We haven't read that part yet. There's like a point where he's like, oh, the talent started to convene in the Discord and I wanted to shut down the channel. Is that later? And his staff convinced him not to? I think his staff really wanted the company to succeed. They were like, dude, don't do that. It's gonna make it worse. You know, trust us. We know the market. But it feels like every time somebody brings something up to him and tells him, we need to do this for this to work, he's taking it as if it's a personal offense. And he doesn't understand that people are coming at it from a good place. And I wish he just opened his ears and listened. Listened to people that understand how to do things, because clearly he didn't. He had an original business strategy, I'll give him that. He made his research, but did he understand the culture? I avoided talking about Nexas and Harry because I don't want to crap on anyone other than Unraveling. But then Harry did this and blamed everyone but himself and Unraveling. It's disappointing. Exactly, same. I didn't say anything bad about Nexas, you know. I always supported them. I was like, let's wait and see. I'm skeptic about a couple things, especially Unraveling. But they made a statement, you know, kind of distancing themselves from them. So I was like, okay, it's probably cool. I don't know what's going on inside the agency, obviously. I'm just looking at this from an outsider perspective. But I really don't like this note. In retrospect, it's pretty obvious that he wanted his company to succeed enough to sell them to someone else. Maybe, I guess a lot of people do that. Every time Harry deleted a bad tweet, it was because of the Nexus staff had to tell him to delete it. I don't doubt it at all. Oh, this is the part. This is the part I was commenting on. I got a bit ahead of myself. A negative spiral in the community. Our Discord server was initially meant to be a place for everyone to grow together and compete positively, but it gradually turned into a hotbed of complaints. In voice chat, a few members would vent about our management and the platform. They criticized our decision to keep recruiting new talents rapidly, as well as how we manage talents. I wanted to shut down the community function altogether, but staff argued that removing it would kill our agency's core value. Yes, and thank God they did. Hello? Like, it would have been horrible if they did. Oh, criticism? Shut down a channel! Don't let them speak! And yes, people will criticize the decision to keep recruiting. I would also do the same. If I'm in an agency, there's barely enough to get by, and I'm like, whoa, you guys keep recruiting talents. What am I here for? Am I gonna go work? I'm here to work. If I'm not gonna get work, I'm gonna take my ass, I'm gonna go somewhere else. Of course. That's how things work. That's business. You want to do business? Well, guess what? They want to do business too. There can be a lot of people, you know, you can be in an agency with a lot of people, but if there's work for everybody, then that's fine. That means they can handle it. Right now I'm in an agency with a lot of people and I get a lot of work. I think, you know, the members were not just complaining and venting their frustration. I think they were actively trying to find solutions to make the company work because they wanted it to work. Meanwhile, negativity in the community led some members to take breaks from streaming. I remember there was like some drama with somebody that left too, and they were like not cool. That might have affected them too. The whole Unraveling thing, the whole AI thing also affected them a lot. I know some artists refused to, you know, take on commissions from these talents. These artists are stupid because the Nexus people had nothing to do with Unraveling in the first place. So rather than inspiring each other, community had become a place that discouraged people from trying. Absolutely the worst scenario. I completely failed to design the community in the way that I originally intended. This is so frustrating to read, man. The crossroad. At this point, it was clear we just had to make a drastic change. To this stage, we have already invested a lot just to produce the Life 2D demos for all the talents. Keep the academia running and make sure talents always have some talent manager to talk to. We hadn't been able to make the projected return on the investment due to various factors explained above. I needed to face the reality, seeing the decline of company cash level every month in the rapid pace. One, fundamental reforms, operations, contract, etc. We could double down on the original strategy, risk losing many talents, but introduce stronger contractual obligations. Yeah, make an academy for bid discussion. Shut it down! Change our main platform. We could pivot to YouTube or Twitch, which talents actually wanted, but after speaking with the other small and mid-sized NA agency owners, I realized almost no one was doing well financially. The only agencies surviving after starting around 2023 or later were either well-funded, big corpo, or had other business that could subsidize the investment needed to scale. We, as a startup company, didn't have any other business project that could produce profit to invest back to Nexus project. Continuing the current operations means starting the countdown to the bankrupt, which I really needed to avoid. Ultimately, I had to admit that our initial hypotheses were off and had to accept that it would be very hard to pull off a miraculous comeback in the same direction. Pivot and the future of Nexus. We decided it was no longer sustainable to operate as a V-Mobile live streaming agency and shifted towards closing the agency function. Rethinking the talent agency model. Scouting established models is more rational. So I think he wants to make another agency now where he gets, you know, established talents and he just take he just skims off the top, so he takes a percentage off of the revenue. So they want to scout individuals who have already some traction or beginning to grow rather than grooming total newbies from scratch. In the VTuber world, it's still common to produce talents from scratch, largely because companies want to create new characters and IPs. Look at VShoujo, a well-known name in the West and Japan. They don't own the IP, they just act as an agency for sponsorship, merch, etc. Brave Group for former RI also adopt talents. And Hololive's Flow Glow feature people with backgrounds in AKB groups. Yeah, but they're not using that background to promote them. So this example actually doesn't fit here. They're basically being born as new identity. They're not banking on their audience from AKB group to go with Hololive. They're just like, we're Hololive, so whoever we debut is gonna have an audience. It really doesn't have like its place there anyway. Instead of splitting revenue for each talent, you might explore a B2B model where the platform pays a management fee or bonus, which Nexas was mostly based on. We didn't take any cut from all the revenues talents made on partner platform. Oh, okay, that's pretty good. But you still be very dependent on the platform. If streaming on a platform isn't monetizable for talents as other mainstream platforms, or if the bonus structure for agency is weak, you can't sustain the business. David Johnson, welcome to the Cute Squad. Yeah, I mean, Anylive just needed a lot more marketing for it to work. Because if there's no audience, how are they gonna make money? And he also says that he's seen a case where talent moved from one platform to 17 Live and tripled their revenue, then doubled it again on TikTok Live without changing content much. We at Nexus couldn't utilize those dynamics effectively. I'm curious as to who it is and to see those numbers. Yeah, no audience, not enough staff, growing too fast, and expecting revenue or projected growth within a year. It sounds like you're crazy, like it sounds like way too idealistic of a business plan. Instead of full spectrum management focusing on specific functions like sponsorship, sales, merch, content production, and mental health support, and generating revenue without taking a cut from the talent. I mean, you would take a cut from the talent from their merch, content production, and sponsorship sales, no? Ending Nix's role as a talent agency. For talents who wanted to keep their avatars, we have options to keep their rights so they could continue independently. A lot of people worked hard in so many ways, and I regret not being able to nurture each person or make our vision of growing both individual and talents and the agency a reality. We ended up causing a lot of confusion with our sudden closure, and I feel incredibly sorry. I genuinely hope they keep working towards their dream at their own pace. The week I had to discuss the closure and contract terminations with the teammates who had supported me since the early days was simply one of the most humiliating and painful moments of my life. In early December 2024, some people said I knew it wouldn't last, but overall many asked why shut down and expressed disappointment. I don't know why we're focusing on the negativity so much. I'm grateful that we managed to gain supporters in such a short time. Thank you so much for believing in us. Building on the network and brand we have, I want to become the first company brand call when they want to do a cross-border project involving VTubers and anime-style influencers around the world. Back to the drawing board. So yeah, he wants to do this company kind of like, you know, a sponsor company, I think, or a management company. Sometimes we'll export Japanese creators, content or culture abroad, but other times we'll help bring overseas creators, content or culture to Japan. Right now, 2 small lines of business are generating some revenue. Creator support, Roblox business, creator support service. This includes supporting Japanese creators in expanding overseas and helping English-speaking creators enter Japan. It's still experimental, but we have team members with experience at My Enemy List and Tokyo Otaku Mode, as well as an overseas influencer in-house. We're pooling our knowledge to build services only we can provide. That could be interesting for people that want to work abroad. They could have a mother agency in their region and then use their service for something else, kind of like how Mythic partnered with Noah Talents, you know, to send some of their service to China, where they already have an established structure there, and Mythic doesn't have that. The Roblox business is crazy. It's already spawning new games and IP. My partner company has been heavily involved in the Roblox project for twice, and Black and all of that is like some metaverse shit, I guess. I feel like him now starting a Roblox business kind of just makes it feel like, I mean, he's just in for the next like cash grab, like whatever makes money. That's in like that general area. It's not really about VTubers, but anything kind of anime influence, I guess. Conclusion: moving forward after failure. It ultimately ended in a failure. During that year, I kept running into walls, painfully aware of my own shortcomings. I tried to shape the business It was mentally tough at times, but I also learned an enormous amount. If you read this far, thank you so much. If you want to do any anime or VTuber related promotion abroad, if you want to leverage IP in Roblox, if you're curious about cross-border creative ventures in Japan and the world, or if you're simply interested in me for creators itself, please feel free to get in touch. To the talents reading this, I truly apologize for dragging you through so many changes, seeing everyone create content day after day. Finally, this article is not meant to blame anyone at all. This is just self-reflection to acknowledge my failure in company management, my failure to build a better operational system. Okay, so yeah, there's more. So in one part, he says that, you know, he closed Nexas and he let the VTubers keep their IPs. Everybody was happy. Everybody celebrated that. And they're like, great agency. Then he releases this blog and then he announces his new website for his new focus on creative studio and VTuber project. And really, this entire blog, now I understand why he did it. It was basically to promote his new venture and to find other people interested in working with him. So he makes this post shortly after where he's promoting the new website in the bio. Nexas Studio. And Nexas Studio, when people click on it, they realize that there's, you know, some Nexas VTubers front, left, and center. Kloto is there. So, you know, it raised some questions. There was somebody familiar here. And then I saw this. A reply by Flork. I urge you to please, who's also the CEO, he runs his own VTuber agency. I urge you to please reconsider using former talents' IPs in the advertising and design of this. You have just released these IPs to the talent. Let them actually own their IPs now. Do you have the licensing right to do this? Do you have said consent from the former Nexus talents to be used this way? When he said licensing rights, I also was wondering the same. Like, so who actually owns the IP? I mean, yes, there's like 3 different theories here that I'm playing with. It's if the company fully transferred the copyright rights to the talent, they will no longer have the legal rights to use the VTuber IP, including the character design. And I spoke to a lawyer to ask that. Unless they negotiated like a separate license or retained some rights. Or 2, the company is still using the VTuber's IP for their own promotion. So they either like, 1, retain some rights. So they like split some rights, like some rights that they give it to them and some they retained. Or they granted them a license instead of a full transfer. But that's not the same as granting full copyright rights. And I mean, I'd have to see the exact wording on the contract because we don't know. Right now, nobody knows. But I have a big question mark here as to how this is allowed. And I can see that Flork had the same questionment. He adds here, please reconsider these changes and let these people who have these IPs from Nexus move on and utilize these characters how and where they want to. Because right now they're plastered all over this website and people probably think that they're part of this agency. And they replied, hi Flork, yes, everything is clearly shared and agreed on in the termination agreement to transfer the IP rights to the talents. Company retains a license. Oh, so the company retains the license, but they transferred all of the rights. To use the avatar strictly for the purpose of company's marketing and explaining business record. This will be done in a way that does not interfere with or hinder the talent's ongoing activities and branding. I see, if it's all legal, then it's fine. Here, just because something is legal doesn't mean it's moral, ethical. Right on, AJ. I've always said, I'll keep on repeating it. Just because it's legal doesn't mean it's ethical. So after this, several of the Nexus talents have released statements to clear up the confusion. I've received questions as to why I'm featured on the Nexus Studio website. I would like to make a statement saying that my chapter has closed with Nexus. I'm not affiliated with Nexus Studio. My debut is a completely indie debut. My debut is not me transferring to the new project in any way, shape, or form. Let's enjoy our time together as indie. I'm so excited to start this chapter with all of you. Your kindness and support means so much. And I think Kloto did this, as I have received a lot of questions about this already. Since it seems like I'm featured on the front page of Nexus Studio, I feel like I need to make it clear I'm not involved in Nexus Studio and my re-debut has nothing to do with transferring to the new project. I will be doing my re-debut as an indie, as I've mentioned many times in my stream. Thank you everyone, I hope to keep getting your support in my VTuber journey. Hey, you! Don't forget to like and subscribe and hit that bell button, and I'll see you in the next video.